Let me just, before we get into the conversation with Drew, just share a little something about what an incredible individual he is. Let's go back to 1970. He's just a young man that's in high school, South River, New Jersey, and he was playing football on the high school team, most excited about what was going to be taking place. But he was a wide receiver at the time, and he was catching balls from a guy by the name of Joe Theismann. How about that? He and Joe went to the same high school, South River, New Jersey. Joe graduated a couple of years prior to that. Joe went on to Notre Dame, of course was a runner-up for the Heisman Trophy a couple of times, then went on to the Washington Redskins and won a Super Bowl. But there was a guy by the name of Drew Pearson that was going to succeed him. He'd been catching balls from Joe. Now, because of his great athletic ability, he was going to be the quarterback. So Drew became the quarterback at South River. Then he caught the attention of some colleges across the country. It was time for him to go on to school. What did he do? He went to Tulsa University. Got a scholarship to go play there. Not as a quarterback, but now as a wide receiver. So freshman, sophomore years, he's doing some good stuff. Goes from quarterback, goes to wide receiver. And then he suddenly starts to draw some national attention. This guy's pretty good. Catches that ball as well as anybody in the country. Then the NFL draft comes along, and unfortunately, he didn't get drafted. But there was a fella by the name of Gil Brandt, Dallas Cowboys, said, you know, we got this guy up in Tulsa, up in Oklahoma, that we ought to take a shot at. And the next thing you know, Drew's a free agent with the Dallas Cowboys. That was back in 1973. So he joins the team. The Cowboys are playing pretty good football at that time. They won Super Bowl VI. Roger Staubach was the quarterback. Craig Morton had moved on to New York and then eventually went to the Denver Broncos. But here's Drew, catching passes from this soon-to-be member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. One of only 10 players to be in the Hall of Fame and also win a Heisman Trophy, Roger Staubach. And then, December 28th, 1975. Where were you then? Think about it. Drew was in Minnesota, at the old stadium, Bloomington, Minnesota to be exact. Happened to catch a pass from Roger Staubach in the closing minutes of a game against the Vikings. It propelled the Cowboys on to the championship game because there was a catch known as the original, the inaugural, the first ever Hail Mary. And what happened was, when they were talking to Roger Staubach in the locker room afterwards, they said, what were you thinking? You just let loose and hit Drew like that. He said, well, I tell you what, being a good Catholic boy, growing up in Cincinnati as an only child, I just kind of looked up to the Lord and said, you know, Hail Mary, let's make this happen. We need to get to the championship game for all the folks back in the great state of Texas. They did. Now you hear broadcasters all across America, in any number of sports, talk about a desperation pass or a desperation play. It's a Hail Mary. The gentleman I'm about to introduce to you was on the receiving end of the first ever Hail Mary. Ladies and gentlemen, this coming year, this coming August, he's now a member of the Cowboys Ring of Honor at AT&T Stadium, but he gets to be a part of the ultimate and join his former teammate, Roger Staubach, and other greats from Cowboys teams past in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. He is the original 88, ladies and gentlemen, Drew Pearson.
Pretty awesome. Thank you guys for allowing me to come to you today virtually. I got the call from the Cowboys and the NFL to have the opportunity to be here in Cleveland to announce the Dallas Cowboys second-round draft pick, which will be the number 44th pick in the draft, and also the third-round pick. So I'm honored to do that, but also honored to be able to be here virtually with you guys as you honor and recognize leadership and the great leaders that you have in your communities. Recognize the leadership that they bring to the chambers in their communities. And to Fletch, congratulations to you twice, okay? Maybe you can give me some pointers on how to pick up a fiance, which would turn into a wife. Congratulations on that. But congratulations to everybody for being there. And again, Scott Murray, thank you for what you do. You know, back in the day, we used to say, Scott, call his name and he'll be there. Yep. And he certainly has done that and proven that to this Metroplex community over the years. So it's a pleasure to be here. And congratulations to all the leaders and those being recognized today.
Thank you, Drew, very, very much. We appreciate it. And I want to add something to what Drew just said. That's why he's not here. He called, I talked to John, and we were ready to go, and Drew was going to be here on the stage with us. And then a couple of weeks ago, he got a call from the NFL. And as he just said, they asked if he would be a part of the NFL draft up in Cleveland tonight. And what an incredible honor. I mean, there's just a handful of players that are ever asked to do that each and every year. So he was asked to do that, and he called, he said, Scott, what do I do? I called John. John said, we can do it virtually. I said, is that possible? He said, yes. I said, great, thank you so much. But as you well know, when somebody like a Drew Pearson comes to do these types of things, they're usually paid, not millions of dollars, but they're given a fee for being here, as most of them are. When Drew said he couldn't be here, he said, forget paying me. I'm proud to do it. I'm pleased to do it. This is the kind of guy he is. He said, take the money you're going to give me and give it to the scholarship in what you're doing in the community. So that's
I just want to give back in any way I can. And if this is just one way to do that, then, I'm all for it. So that's what it's all about. But again, thank you for allowing me to be here. This virtual thing is pretty cool. I wish we had this back in the day. I might not have to meet face to face so many times with Coach Landry. And some of those times weren't so pleasant. Okay? So anyway, this is pretty cool. This is the things we have to do now in our society, in our world. We have to make adjustments. And the leaders in our communities, in our towns, in our businesses, in our organizations, have to be the leaders in making those adjustments. And so I'm happy that we're able to do this, and I'm happy to also I'm really honored to be here in Cleveland. I mean, this is one of the most iconic franchises in pro football history. As a Hall of Famer, you'll hear some of this in my presentation tonight, but as a Hall of Famer, I stand on the shoulders of a lot of these great Cleveland Brown football players that have led the way for me to become an NFL football player because of what they brought to the game. Jim Brown, Leroy Kelly, Bobby Mitchell, even John Wooten, who was in our community, worked for the Dallas Cowboys a number of years. And guys, I would not be the receiver that I turned out to be for the Dallas Cowboys if it wasn't for the great Paul Warfield, who's a former Cleveland Brown before he became a Miami Dolphin. And I learned and watched him run pass routes. And he doesn't know it, but videos of him over and over, watching him and developing myself as a wide receiver. So I'm happy to be here in Cleveland. I'm honored to be chosen by the Dallas Cowboys for the second time. Back in 2017 or 2016 draft, I was selected to make that selection as well. And now they called me back to make this selection, so I'm honored to be here.
Well, let's talk about what took place last night when they opened the NFL draft here in 2021. What do you think about the Cowboys' first pick?
Scott, I like the pick. Once we lost the two opportunities to draft those two people they rated number 1 and number 2 at cornerback, Surtain and Horn. Once those guys went up the board, then the Cowboys had to go to the next best player available on the defensive side of the football. And, it kind of scratched my bald head a little bit and do a double take because we made a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles, to make that happen. We went down from 10 to 12 and picked up a a third round draft pick, the 84th pick in the draft, by making that trade with the Eagles. The Eagles moved up to get the receiver they wanted, and now the Cowboys were able to find the defensive linebacker from Penn State, Michael Parsons, and he is a playmaker. He can bring it. And with Sean Lee retiring, and then some questions about Jalen Smith and Leighton Von Andershet, I think linebacker was a need for the Cowboys, and that's what they fulfilled by drafting the linebacker from Penn State, Michael Parsons.
Well, let's go back in time, Drew. Let's talk about your your legacy and taking it all back when you were at South River. And I talked about the fact that you were catching passes from Joe Theismann, who went on to the Redskins. And, of course, you're with the Cowboys. And here's two teams in the NFC East, big competitors, and how ironic you both came from the same high school. I just wondered, as a kid growing up, Roger Staubach wanted to be a baseball player. Troy Aikman wanted to be a baseball player. They both ended up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which you will be a part of come this August. How about it? When you think back as a kid, what did you want to do? Who were your heroes? Who were the people you looked up to until you got to Tulsa and then, of course, on to the NFL?
Well, Scott, I wanted to be a baseball player too. And that's why I chose Tulsa over the University of Nebraska, because they were going to allow me to play baseball. And Tulsa at that time had an outstanding baseball program. They were going to College World Series, coached by the great Gene Shell. They were having players drafted into the major leagues, including the great Steve Rogers, who pitched a number of years, an all-star pitcher for the Montreal Expos. So Tulsa was going to let me play baseball and football. So that's why I chose them over Nebraska. But as a kid growing up in New Jersey, I was all about the New York teams. The Knicks, the Nets, the Yanks, the Mets, the Giants, the Jets, the Islanders, and the Rangers. And all those guys were my heroes, Back in the day, Joe Namath, my senior year in high school, that's when he made the prediction they're going to guarantee a Super Bowl win. And they did. In 1969, they won, the Super Bowl, led by Joe Namath. In 69 also, the amazing Mets won the World Series, led by the great Tom Seaver, pitching, and Jerry Kuzman on the mound, leading the Mets. And then the Knicks, with Walt Frazier and Willis Reed. Remember the game where, he came limping out of the locker room and ignited the Knicks to victory. I think it was over the Washington Bullets at that time. But all these people, were my heroes. As a kid growing up in South River, we had a guy from the New York Giants lived in the town over from us in East Brunswick. And it was about a 5-mile walk to his house. And we knew he lived there. We knew he was a New York Giant. His name was Alex Webster. His nickname was Big Red. He played at Rutgers University, so he stayed in the area, because Rutgers is right there in New Brunswick. And we as kids used to walk to his house and sit on the curb and just wait till he came home from practice or a game or whatever, and hope that we would get a glimpse of him as a pro athlete. Back in the day, you didn't take pictures or, ask for autographs. You just wanted to see a pro athlete. And I was able to do that, witnessing and watching Alex Webster, Big Red, from the New York Giants. So those are the people I looked up to. Gene Washington, Charlie Taylor from from Grand Prairie, was one of my favorites as well. Tried to emulate those kind of receivers in the NFL. So had some great mentorship by following these guys and trying to duplicate some of the things that they did.
Well, let's go from South River to the NFL. And I mentioned the specific date, December 28, 1975. You're up in Minnesota. And the Hail Mary. And it was the inaugural, the first ever Hail Mary. I kind of alluded to what Roger said in the locker room following the game. Take us back. You were there on the receiving end of the Hail Mary. People see you now. The original number 88, Mr. Hail Mary, Drew Pearson. How many times have you been introduced like that? Take us through that catch and how that all came about. And just all these years later, my gosh, it's close to 50 years later. Unbelievable. What about it?
Well, not quite 50, Scott. 45. Not quite 50, almost 50. But I can't even believe it's like 45 years ago. We just celebrated that on December 28, 2020. 45 years and the play still is like it happened yesterday, because people never let it go. They continue to talk about it. And now the phrase Hail Mary is used in so many different vernaculars and so many different aspects of our lives. It's in our personal life, it's in our sports life, it's in our business life, it's in our charitable life, it's in our religious life. I heard the other day a preacher saying, hey, we might need a Hail Mary, to get out of here on time to go watch the Cowboys play. on TV. So it has definitely impacted my life in a lot of ways. But in that situation, in that game, we were the wild card team that year. We finished the season at 10-4. So we had to go up to Minnesota. They had the best record in the NFC East. So we had to go play them up there at the Metropolitan Stadium. And they were a great Viking team. They had just been to the Super Bowl where they lost. They said this team was even better than that Super Bowl team. And so they're basically the same guys. But, you know, in that Hail Mary game, you know, we had the lead at halftime, and then they came back late in the fourth quarter to take the lead 14-10. And now we needed about 91 yards to go to get a touchdown to win the game. And guys, I was a little upset with everybody, okay? I was upset with Coach Landry. I was upset with my quarterback, Roger Staubach. And the reason is because I only had one pass thrown to me that whole game up to that point. And it was an overthrow and, you know, incomplete pass. So I was a little upset. So we get in a situation, when we got in a 2-minute situation with Roger and I, it was a situation where Roger would say, Drew, what do you got? And I would give him the best information, best on what I was seeing at that particular time in the game, not necessarily based on the information that we accumulated with our analytics and data in preparation for our game plan, because now this is real time. We got to see what they're doing in real speed in real time. And so, you know, once we got in that situation, we got bogged down, 4th down and 17. And Roger said, Drew, what do you got? I said, line me up on Nate right side. Let's run a post corner on Nate right. Roger said, fine, run it. We broke the huddle. We ran that play. Roger hit me on the sideline for 22 yards and a first down on 4th and 17. Wow. You know, against a Minnesota Viking team, a veteran team that would not let you have that kind of success in that type of situation. But we hit it for the first down. We get back to the huddle. Roger said, Drew, what do you got? I said, Roger, I got no breath. I just ran around first down. So he threw it past to Preston Pearson. Preston kind of tripped, and that caused him to drop the football and stop the clock. And now they gave us a chance to regroup. Roger said, Drew, what do you got? I said, Roger, let's run a turn and take off this time on Nate Wright. Roger says, fine, run it. We break the huddle. Run the turn and take off on Nate Wright. Golden Richards, y'all remember the great Golden Richards? He told him to run a post pattern down the left side of the field to hold Paul Krause to that side of the field. Paul Krause is still today the NFL's all-time interception leader, and most of his interceptions he got on overthrows. So we had to get him out of the flood. So Roger pumped Golden, came back to me, and by that time I'm way downfield, and I saw that the ball was going to be underthrown. I came back. And I used that swim move, guys, that we receivers like to use to get inside position on a defensive back. You don't use the inside arm to get that inside position. You use the outside arm, and that's called the swing move. And in doing that, you bring it around. And when you come around, now you've got that inside position on a defensive back. So now I'm coming around, and with that, there was contact. And with that contact and the momentum that we were having, and then the situation, intensity of the moment and everything, with that contact, Nate Wright went down to the ground, and I came around and the ball hit my hand and ended up sticking between my elbow and my hip. You know, people said, Drew, you had great hands back in the day. No, when I caught the Hail Mary, I caught it with my elbow and my hip, and I ended up backing into the end zone. And of course, the Viking fans are booing and throwing things out of the stands and thinking I pushed off and it was offensive pass interference. But guys, we were playing football. When I brought that arm around, yes, there was contact. Because we were playing football, there might be some contact. This is not golf. This is not tennis. This is football. You might get hit in football and in the playoff game. So there was contact, but there was no deliberate push. So guys, after the game, remember that big afro I used to have? I'm picking it out, and I noticed no one's over there talking to me, asking me what happened on the play. Then I look across the locker room. Oh, there's all the reporters. They're over there talking to Roger Staubach. They asked Roger what happened on the play. Roger said, I threw the ball as far as I could. I closed my eyes, and I said a Hail Mary. The next day, the Dallas Times Herald, I don't know if y'all remember that newspaper. Next day, the Dallas Times Herald, It says, Cowboys win by a Hail Mary. And bam, that's when the Hail Mary phrase, vernacular, took off, and again, into all aspects of our lives. I'm sure you guys finding out that you're able to overcome those situations where you're part of Hail Mary, probably in your business life, when it looked like all odds were back against the wall, and you found a way to overcome that negative, all the issues that you might have had in your business life, and you found a way to do that. Well, you're part of Hail Mary to make that happen. So now Roger coined that phrase, and guys, if they would have asked me what happened on that play, I would have said, Roger threw the ball as far as he could, I caught it, and said, hey, hallelujah, something like that. Amen. I'm a Baptist from New Jersey. I didn't even know what the Hail Mary is. And I know what it is now. Hail Mary, full of grace, water, being with thee, and all that. So I know what it is now. But that's what Roger, being a devout Catholic that he is, coined that phrase, Hail Mary, and now it's it's a global phrase now. So that's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
I don't know if you can hear everybody out there through our Zoom, whatever, but everybody's laughing and everybody's applauding. And they love the story, Drew, so thank you much for that.
Okay, good.
I tell you what, I've just got 2 or 3 more questions, and just in the interest of time, we're going to move on. I know you've got a busy day coming up. But let's go back to just a couple of individuals that I know mean so much to you, all your teammates, and you've mentioned some of them here. But certainly Roger Staubach, and the relationship that you both still have with one another. I mean, I can't begin to think of how many events the 3 of us have done together with some of your other teammates, and you're always there for nonprofits. And that's one of the things that has impressed me most about both you and Roger. Troy Aikman does the same type of thing. You're always there when the community needs you, whatever the nonprofit or the children's organization it might be. You guys are always there. So I just wanted to talk about your relationship, or just the relationship that you have all these years. You retired in 1983. I mean, that's almost 40 years ago, for Pete's sake. And you think about you were only 12 at the time. Don't worry about it.
Right. Thank you,
but also your relationship with Tom Landry. You mentioned Tom Landry earlier today. Just those 2 individuals. What comes to mind?
Well, when I think of both of those guys, what first comes to mind is leadership, and the way they carry themselves. When I came into the NFL as an undrafted free agent, and now, so ironic, I'm known for the draft. I wasn't even drafted into the NFL. I had to come in as a free agent, and now I'm known for the draft because of that presentation in Philadelphia. But when I think of Roger Staubach and Coach Landry, the number one thing I think about is leadership. Coach Landry's leadership was second to none. The reason he was the great leader is because he had character, he was intelligent, he had passion about what he was doing, and he had some talent. I mean, the guy can coach the game. And Roger was the same way. He had the character, he had the intelligence, he had the passion for the game, and he certainly had the talent to play the game. And so if you had those kind of things going for you, then you had the qualities it took to be a great leader. And being around those guys, I learned how to be a leader as well. One of the greatest accomplishments I was able to achieve during my tenure with the Cowboys was being elected by Coach Landry and my teammates as captain of the football team. What a big thrill for me to walk out to the middle of the field to do the coin flip with Roger Staubach, Mel Renfro, or Bob Lilly, or Rayfield Wright, and Bob Hayes, and guys like this walking out to the field, and you're one of the guys that they look upon as a leader. And so, I learned my leadership qualities from watching those guys. Coach Landry was a great leader because he talked the talk and he walked the walk. He would not ask you to do anything he wouldn't do himself. And he showed you the way. And because of that, if you were smart enough, you followed the way. All my lessons as an adult were learned through being around people like Coach Landry and Roger Staubach. I learned to be a good football player. There's no question about that. It took me from an undrafted free agent to the Hall of Fame. And a lot of it had to do with the people I was around. But I also learned how to be a pro, a professional, how to carry yourself not only in the locker room, not only on the field, but off the field as well. How to give back to the community, take advantage of the opportunities that you do have to give back. You know, Scott, you mentioned my giving back to the community and all the things that I've been involved with. But you know, my career ended via a car accident on LBJ Freeway 635, where I lost my brother in that car accident. And I was spared in that car accident. And I'm wondering why, okay? And I looked up to the skies and asked the good Lord, why was I spared? He didn't talk to me directly, but he instilled in me what I needed to do to take advantage of me still being here. And one of the things I needed to do was to give back in each and every way that I can. And I want to be the best at it. When a person comes up to me, when a fan comes up to me, asks for an autograph, I'm too happy to sign that autograph. I want to make that fan's day. You know, when a fan comes up to me and says, my dad was, you were my dad's favorite, I tell that fan, get him on the phone, let me talk to him. Man, you make that guy's day. You have the ability to do that. The good Lord blessed me with that by sparing me in that situation, that tragic situation. So that's why I'm inspired a lot to give back to the community. And I think that's what Drew Pearson is all about. But I learned all those things from being around quality people. When I go from Tulsa to the Dallas Cowboys, you know, and catch playoff touchdowns and things like that, the lesson I learned right there my rookie year, that if you surround yourself with successful people, then guess what? You have a chance to be a success yourself. And I'm the perfect example of that, Scott.
Well, that kind of goes into the, yes, just two more questions, and that kind of goes into the second to the last question I wanted to ask you. It's about your legacy. Certainly you're going into the Hall of Fame and what have you, and I'll talk to you about that in just a sec. But just as you look back, and you mentioned losing your brother back in '83, and all that has taken place in your life, just a young kid from New Jersey who liked to throw the football and catch the football, play a little baseball, and look where you ended up. Now, 40 plus years later, you're going in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But I just wondered if I was to take my children, my grandchildren, my my whatever, or anybody in this room were to take their great-grandkids or, decades from now, they go to the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, and they look up and they see this bust, and there it is, number 88, Drew Pearson, Dallas Cowboys.
With the biggest afro, don't recognize me. All right.
What would you like the dad, the grandfather, the great-grandfather, the mom, whoever it might be, as they look up at you and read what it says, what would you want them to say over and above when they talk about Drew Pearson and what your legacy was and has become?
Well, Scott, I hope the first thing they see when they see a bust of me or my name in the Ring of Honor or whatever associated with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I hope the first thing they say, hey, if he can do it, I can do it too, okay? You know, you put your mind to it, you know, you can make something good happen for yourself. But my thing is all about this. You know, don't honor the man, honor the mission, okay? Frederick Douglass once said, don't judge me by the heights I've reached, but rather from the depths from which I've come. That quote is on my father's tombstone when we laid him to rest. And don't judge me where you see me now. Judge me how I got there and all the things I had to overcome to get to that point. So don't honor the man, honor the mission and the way I was able to overcome the things. And I hope that's the inspiration, not just what you see there, my name in the Ring of Honor or my bust, 19-inch afro, by the way, I'm just saying. Don't judge it by that, you know. Judge it by how I got there. Follow the path that I had to take to get there, and maybe that will inspire others to follow their path. Because the good Lord blesses us all with the path for us to follow. Jeremiah 29:11 tells us that, okay? And he creates a path for us, and it's for good, not for disaster, and you believe wholeheartedly in it, it'll come to fruition for you. So that's what my story is all about. Whatever your path is, to your level of success that you're trying to reach, you know, follow that path and trust that path and trust the mission that you're on, and that's what hopefully my legacy will leave long after I'm gone. And that's one thing about being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You know, you create immortality for yourself. I know it was God's grace that led me through my path to immortality and being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and up here in the Cowboys Ring of Honor. But, you know, I mean, that's what it's all about. You want to be able to leave something behind that outlives you after you're gone. And I think being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the Cowboys Ring of Honor cements my legacy, and it leaves something behind that my family can appreciate and understand what their legacy is all about.
Great answer. Last question. August 2021. Number 88, the original 88. It was Michael Irvin. It was Des Bryant. It was CeeDee Lamb. They've all followed in your footsteps. But the man that came to be known as number 88 of the Dallas Cowboys, the original 88, Drew Pearson, now about to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Just share with us briefly as you can what that's going to mean in August.
Well, that's going to mean everything, Scott. I waited a long time, 38 years to hear those words from David Baker when he told me over at the Cowboy Star with Roger and Mr. Jones present. And I waited a long time to hear those words. So I will be so appreciative and so honored to be able to be included into one of the greatest teams of all time. And as Mr. Baker said, you never get cut, you never get fired, you never get too old for this team, you'll be on this team forever. And it's the greatest collection of football players ever assembled. Now, there's a lot of great Cowboys that should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame or getting consideration. There's no question about that. But for me to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame with a lot of Cowboys that are in there, guys that I've played with, and they tell you belong there, wow, that really means a lot to me. So I'm excited about it. My family will be there. And as Terrell Owens said, this is the only thing I take from Terrell Owens. Get your popcorn ready. We're going to have a celebration. We're going to have a celebration.
I want you to take us home in Drew Pearson fashion, and you know what I'm talking about, how you always wrap things up wherever you might be. But before you do that, let me simply say, you're a dear friend, one of my favorites of all time, and I am so proud of the fact that you're going to be joining the likes of the Dorsetts and the Roger Staubachs, the Emmett Smith, the Michael Irvin, the Troy Aikman, past, present, Bob Lilly. I mean, look at them all. And of course, all the other fellas that have come along with you. But thank you, thank you, thank you. It's all yours, my friend. Thanks for doing this on Zoom. Take us home.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me, allowing me to do this on Zoom. Let me leave you with this. This is from Lenny Kravitz. Will there be tomorrow? How can you be sure? There ain't always next season. There ain't always an open door. Life is dear, don't you waste it. The future no one can see. So step aside and let it be. Tomorrow may wash away. So don't put off what you can do today. Take advantage while you are here, because this moment is all there is. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the moment.
Now you can see why I am a big fan of Drew's. We all have seen great football players, and we all know what they do. They catch the ball, they run fast, they do all the things that we expect them to do. But I can't begin to tell you, Drew came and joined me at Channel 5 back in 1983-84 because he wanted to get into broadcasting. I ended up going to CBS and doing some things, but he came into the studio. I had Harvey Martin had been there, Ron Springs, of course, who got a kidney transplant from Everson Walls, some of the greats in the late 70s, early 80s. And he came in, and I knew at that time how the loss of his brother had affected him, and I wondered how it would touch him as he moved forward. And you saw a side of Drew Pearson that I probably would say that you probably didn't know existed. So he's just a really good guy. John calls, I call, here's Drew. And he's here, and my when I told him it was John and a leadership group and what have you, he said, oh yeah, definitely. Anything I can do to share some thoughts with the community and be a part of it. So thanks to you all for, I'm sorry that he wasn't here, but we certainly understand what transpired there. I'm trying to see where I'm supposed to go now. Each of our VIP table sponsors will receive, by the way, an authentic Dallas Cowboys football autographed by soon-to-be Hall of Famer Drew Pearson. So VIP sponsors, please come see Randy at the end of the luncheon. And Drew did one other thing for us, though. There are other people in here besides our sponsors. And I have one football right there that's been autographed that says Drew Pearson, HOF 2021, Hall of Fame. So, is there anybody that would like to give me $25,000 for that? Okay. You know where the money's going. I'm just trying to help the cause. You know? Yeah, it's going to the scholarships. That's right. That's where it's going. Anybody have any opening bid? See, it's a cool football. $200. It says Cowboys on this side. You see the star, and there's Drew's autograph and what have you. How much? Somebody says 500. Oh, 500 over here. Did you say 1,000? It's all for scholarships. I do what I can. Okay, I'm at 500. Oh, you're getting 1,000. Well, look at guys. This lovely young lady is outbid you. She said 1,000. Do I see 1,200? 1,200. Thank you very much. Do we see 14? You want to go to 14? 14? 14? 14, there it is. 1,600. 16? Back to you for 16. Can we go 16? 1,600. 1,600. I'll take 15. 1,600. 2,000. I don't know who you are. I can't see that far, but thank you very much. I get my glasses on here, so 2,000. That's all. How about? Do I see 22? 2,200? 2,200. Thank you very much. How about? Can we get? Is there anybody who would say 2,500? 25? Am I being greedy? It's all for scholarships. Or as Drew would say, hut, hut. 25? I'm at 22. 22 right here. You want to go to 24? 25. Awesome. 27? 25.50. Let's at least in 100 increments. Can we go to 26? 26. 27, sir? She's at 26. Is there anybody else that would like to get into this? Because guess what? These are my two new best friends. And I have 3 footballs. So I'm going to say sold for 26, sold for 26, and if there's anybody in the house that would like to buy the last football, the final one, for 26, we'd be happy to give it to you. And it's a great write-off because it all goes to the scholarships. Anybody? 26? 26, 26, 26. All right. Sold. We just made $5,200. Thank you very much.